not invest in them, if we do not empower them.
The resources above and below the ground belongs to the state. You are the state.
So today we are here with Trevino Forbes. He's also the mayor from Walvis Bay, but he's also the vice president of IPC. And I think one thing that we have in common is we both came from outside of politics into politics. I think that's something that makes IPC quite unique as to other political movements in the past, that Dr. Itula was able to inspire a lot of people to become part of a movement, to become part of politics, to start bringing some change. So I actually want you to give me a bit of an idea, why do you even join in the first place? Or what was the thing that inspired you to become part of IPC?
Well, some of the minority groups, especially the rip-off busters, the colored community and the white communities, they were always left out of politics. There was no political home because politics was always based on tribal affiliations and so forth. And with IPC, I didn't find that. But my main reason for coming into politics, I think it was quite an emotional ride for me, getting into politics, getting to know firsthand what the country's been struggling with both my mother-in-law and my mother getting sick, going to hospital and not getting the proper treatment. And when your mother is in Katatura hospital and you have to go out and you have to go buy bandages because the state hospital doesn't have bandages, you have to buy cleaning material to clean the ward that she's staying in, and everybody pitching in, that's patients basically, to pitch in and to get things clean in the hospital. And you stand there and you look opposite the street and you find that there's a big building being built by the SWAPO party. That was my turning point. Coming back home to Walvis Bay after my mother passed away, coming back to Walvis Bay again to work, realizing that the fish rot case was on and so many of our people are losing their livelihoods because of corruption. And I just thought that this is my time to stand up, because so many of us, we look through the window and we don't actively get involved and get engaged in politics. And the only way to really make a change is when you take that step to get involved in politics. And the IPC was the party that I believe was going to bring about that change.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because we had a very similar, let's say, instigating thing. I mean, growing up, in Afrikaans culture, that was praat die politiek nie. It's like geloof in politiek. It's those things that you don't talk about because it usually creates friction. And I think it originated maybe in my grandparents' era, where there was the Nasionale Partij and the SAPA, the NATA and the SAPA. They had this thing where they would fight about politics. And I think after independence, you say, like, we were left out of the equation. And we were put in the sideline. And now the Afrikaners and also the Germans, they went into the private sector. They were like, let's do our thing in the private sector, leave the public sector completely. And I think now, with the economy in the way that it is, people are starting to realize that, listen, we can't just stay outside of politics, because politics affects everyone. And there's this common saying that, you might not care about politics, but politics cares about you. And it's quite interesting that you mentioned that SWAPO building. I think that was an eye-opener for a lot of people. Because somehow in our minds you have this idea, but there is no funds, or we are struggling. And then you see something like this happening, and this is this contrasting thing. People struggling to get medicine, infrastructure dilapidating. And they are building this massive new buildings. I remember driving past the Home Affairs building when it got built. And it's just this excessive thing. And I'm thinking to myself, what are we trying to prove here? This is an administration office, right? It's offices for people. Well, simultaneously, we have a massive house shortage in this country. People don't have houses. I mean, the amount of people living in informal settlements and shacks is staggering. It's like a third of the population. And we have such a small population. And I think it was, as I said, the same instigating thing that, listen, we need to do something. How old are you?
I'm 40 years now.
Yeah, so I'm 31. So we are still young. We still have a future to forge for ourselves and for the children. And I think to see this contradiction and to know that we can do something about it. So I think, and that's how you started getting IPC, and then you stood for mayor or stood for local authority, or how did you become mayor?
Well, the initial plan was not to get actively involved in politics to get any position, but to assist to bring about the necessary change. So I was recruited by one pastor, Sean, and he used to call himself the SWAPO party pastor. And Pastor Sean would come to Spar where I was working. He would come there on a daily basis because he worked at the mine. And he would tell me, young man, you must join the SWAPO party so that you can see what you can do for yourself. You cannot be working at the retail shop for the rest of your life. And this was a norm. And the fish rock case occurred, the fish rock corruption case occurred, and I was at Spa, and I was talking to one of the cashiers, telling them, you're this pastor. He sees the corruption taking place within the SWAPO party and how the SWAPO party is destroying our economy, yet he's asking me to join. That same night he came up to me and he said, young man, I need to speak to you. I can no longer be part of this affiliation because I can see the corruption taking place within our party, or what's brewing from this party. And I have just decided to join Dr. Itula's party. Do you care to join me? And I told him, that is what I've been waiting for. Let's start. So the two of us started the Narraville branch, and that was the most active branch in Walvis Bay. We started recruiting a lot of members, getting people involved in politics. Most of the people that joined the Narraville branch in Walvis Bay under me and Pastor Sean was first-time politicians.
Okay.
People from the colored community that has never been involved in politics, people from the white community. And if you look at the diversity of the IPC Council within Walvis Bay, you have Oshivambu, you have colored, you have a pastor, you have a white guy also in there, Leroy. So the diversity of the council in Walvis Bay speaks to the diversity of what IPC has to offer.
I think I had a conversation with my wife actually earlier today about, every 10 years there seems to be another party challenging SWAPO. So you had COD in 1999, then you had the RDP late 2000s, and now you have the IPC. So and then she asked me, but what makes IPC different than those? And I think there's a lot of factors that make us different. But one of the key things is the COD and the RDP were basically broke off from SWAPO as an entirety. So people from inside SWAPO would just join RDP and they would still have the same structures, the same way of doing things. Where Dr. Itula managed to get people from outside politics. If you look at our NGS, right? She's never been involved in politics, and she's the engine of our party. Yeah. She's the CEO. She basically runs the administration, and that's a quite interesting thing, a differentiating factor that I think that he managed to get people involved that were like, we want to make a difference, but we've never been able to join politics because we felt we were on the outside. And the way they do things differently, and the fact that it is so representative of everyone. It's not a one culture party. That I think is an amazing thing that he managed to achieve.
Yeah, IPC created a platform where everybody's voice could be heard. And if you look at what Dr. Itula brings to the political game, he's not interested in any position. He's interested in bringing about change. And I think the people that joined his party had the same mentality. If you look at people are asking me, why didn't you and your president go to parliament? We didn't go because we trust the people that we put in power to go there. You yourself, you're one of the parliamentarians that comes from IPC. And if you look at the diversity of our parliamentarians as well, and where they all come from all the different regions, it just represents what IPC is all about.
Yeah, and I think what is also, we have a lot of young people in the party as well, and even in parliament. If you compare I had a conversation with one of the SWAPO MPs, and we were talking about how the 8th Parliament is so radically different. And he said, yeah, but there's a lot of youth in the Parliament. And I agreed, and I said, but you realize the youth is from opposition parties. There's one person younger than 35 in a SWAPO MP, and she's 21, 22, and the rest of the 13 young people in Parliament is from the opposition. And I think it's so important that young people are taking part in these things. So yeah, and I mean, you also started quite young. You were 35 when you started. Yeah. And I think that kind of ties back into, that we need to forge a path for our future and the future of our children. So coming back to Walvis Bay, so you then, after you created the branch, you stood as a local authority candidate in 2020, 3 months after the inception of the party. And then we won, how many seats? 4 seats. 4 seats. And you were chosen to represent or to stand as mayoral candidate, or how did that process work? Maybe you can give me a bit of an idea.
Yeah, how it worked was, IPC prides itself on the grassroots participation principle that we do have in our party. And so we were chosen through our branches, and the branches had to decide how many people, gave a few people's name through. And then everybody with IPC membership card back then in 2020 had to come and vote for who they want to represent them in local authority and as well as regional council. And I came out number 1 on the list for the IPC. representation of Walvis Bay. And we had a list of 10, 15, 5 extra. And we went into elections. SWAPO by that time, when we went into elections, they had 8 seats. They were reduced to 3 seats in Walvis Bay.
Wow.
Yeah, so IPC got 4 seats. And then other parties like the Residents Association got 1, PDM got 1, LPM got 1, SWAPO's 3, our 4. So that's how we got into local authority. And then it was time now for us to decide amongst each other who is going to get what portfolio and who are we going to work with when we go into council. And we had to make this decision basically on our own then. You know, IPC was 2-3 months old when we went into elections. And CP, Dr. Tula, had that trust in his leadership to say that you guys are in charge now, you run your affairs and you make sure that you make the right decisions.
Okay, and then that's how you got elected?
That's how I got, because we said, okay, you have the most votes, and so, and we divided. Leroy back then was the chairperson of the management committee, Sarah became the deputy mayor, I was the mayor, and then Olivia was a management committee member.
And you've been re-elected ever since?
Ever since.
Every year you've been re-elected.
And it's when you work with a coalition, it's always, you have to really appreciate the partnerships that you do have. And we have been having a very, very beautiful relationship with the Resident Association and of course with our PDM councillor in Walvis Bay. And that made it possible for us to really maintain our good relationship, but also the position that we had, because it wasn't about who holds what position, but it was the merit that was brought about by holding that position. What can you achieve by being the mayor? What can you achieve by being the MC chair?
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think a lot of the viewers outside there doesn't really always know how things get done and decisions are being made. And I think on that, there's something that we kind of need to clarify, and that is the role of local authority councillors. Because I think people often have this idea that, you know, a mayor is responsible for everything in the town, right? From all the decisions being made to the execution to everything falls on the mayoral mandate. So perhaps you can maybe give us an idea what exactly is the mandate and what is the separation between the executive part of a local authority or a town and the decision-making section, which is the councillors and the local authority.
Well, I think that, we get it wrong a lot of the times, because people think that if you are the mayor, you are the councillors, you have overall control over everything that happens within town. You can fix the roads, you can do everything. And it's frustrating to be a mayor and not to be able to really do what people want you to do. When I visit other countries, like when I went to Ethiopia, when I went to Poland, the mayor of Czerwonak in Poland, he's executive mayor. He runs the town basically, and he employs or he gets his councillors on board to do certain portfolios within that. In the Namibian context, it's completely different. We do not have that ultimate powers. We make the policies, and then we have or the resolutions in council, and then the executive will be the CEO and her team that executes these resolutions made by councillors.
Okay, so for me to properly understand it, so you have these two bodies. You have the body that is run by the CEO and the people under her mandate or his mandate, and then you have the council. So a council, the mayor will make a decision, and let's use the roads as the example, because I think this is the most topical thing because of the condition that Walvis Bay's roads are in. So the mayor will make the decision that we need to fix the roads. There needs to be a tender going out to the roads, right? That decision, or the council make the decision, that then goes to the executive part. So what then happens there?
Well, I think roads construction is an ongoing thing. So it doesn't even come to council to say that we must make a decision for roads to be fixed. You have departments within the local authority that deals with that aspect, and it goes through the procurement process, where council is at no stage involved in procurement.
So procurement is handled by executive
administration on its own.
Okay.
So what the process usually will come is a recommendation will come from your administration.
Okay.
To the management committee. The management committee in Walvis Bay's concept has 4 members. These 4 members will then make a recommendation on what was provided by the administration to the full council. Certain powers lie with the management committee alone. For example, if the mayor has to travel to Ethiopia, the management committee will resolve, and it will go as a report to the council, to full council. Certain things like rezoning and selling or alienating of land will go as a recommendation from management committee upon the submission of the administration to the full council. The full council will then sit and hear out the recommendation that was given by management committee to them. They will then amongst themselves decide if they want to go ahead with this submission, and then it will become a resolution that must be executed then by the administration.
Okay.
But service delivery in general is an ongoing thing. It's not something that goes to council at all. We've never had an issue where we had to resolve to say, fix this road. It doesn't work that way. Administration is solely responsible to deliver those basic services. And it's done through the procurement process that is in line.
Okay, so there's a common conception that the councillors are responsible for fixing roads, but you now say it's not.
No.
Because the thing is that I don't understand is if fixing a road is such an relatively easy thing, it looks from the outside like quite an easy thing to do. Why aren't if IPC would know that this will affect them and people will blame them for them, why not just simply fix the roads?
I think that is something that I've been struggling with because as Afrikaans 'n regdenkende persoon, which person would put themselves in a position to be insulted in social media on a daily basis because of something you could do by yourself tomorrow?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So we've had this challenge with road fixing, and I think we should generalize to say that there's a lot of factors that goes into fixing of roads, maintaining of sewage infrastructure, all of these things. It also has to do with funding. Do you have the funding?
Yeah.
Walvis Bay is a part one municipality, so basically rely on our own funding through sales of water, rates and taxes and all of this. And then the procurement process, I think we have to sit down and really dissect the procurement process as a government and see, is this process really servicing or helping the local authorities and the residents at large?
Yeah.
It isn't. It takes forever to get something done. And then you still have a door open for objections that will then reverse this decision and has to go all the way back and come back to the whole process must be revised.
Okay, so I think what we need to, for the listeners to understand now, can you explain to me? So we know that the procurement function is under the executive and not the council. So within the Local Authority Acts, they deliberately removed the two because they said a council can't have influence on the procurement as to stop corruption or as to separate the powers. Am I correct?
I think it's a bit of both because you have a dilemma when you look at how things are being done. Councillors are elected.
Yes.
They become like a board of directors.
Yes.
And then your chief executive officer and the general managers, they are now the ones to do what the directors wants them to do.
Yeah.
But I think the main reason why this was removed from council is also somehow to maybe streamline the process, but it didn't work at all.
Okay.
When we came in council, we found the process as is. We found that councillors are no longer involved in procurement, which I have no problem with. I actually prefer it that way. But we must find a way to make it then be less bureaucratic when it comes to executing.
Okay, I understand. So the fact is procurement lies with the executive under the CEO.
Yeah.
So can you explain to me how did the procurement system in the case of Walvis Bay roads fail us and left us in the situation that we reached the stage that we are?
Well, first of all, Walvis Bay didn't have a chief executive officer for almost 4 years since we came into council.
Okay.
And so there was nobody to account to council. So the council's authority lies over the chief executive officer, which then in turns deals with the general managers, and they deal with the managers, and so it goes down on the hierarchy of how things work. So Walvis Bay didn't have a procurement manager all of these years.
Okay.
It was never there. Since we came in, we didn't find a procurement manager. That one has now been appointed. A CEO has also been appointed.
So appointing the procurement manager and the CEO is one of the rectifying things that the council tried to do to change what happened.
Yeah, first of all, getting a CEO on board. That was our main
proper
goal.
CEO.
A proper CEO on board. And that one we got now.
Okay.
So we knew if we can get the best CEO that we possibly can get, that Walvis Bay deserves, everything would start falling in place. And rightfully it has. Okay. Since our CEO came in, she then started to employ the procurement manager, we are now dealing with human resource issues.
Okay.
A human resource manager position has also been vacant for 20 plus years, general manager, human resource. So these are things that's currently falling in place. And also I want to say the balls to take decisions.
Yes.
And that one she has.
Okay.
Because we've been working with acting CEOs for 4 years, and they couldn't really take a firm decision on things because they were not substantive in that position. They were acting in their own. They were acting as CEO, but they still had their own departments that they needed to take care of.
Okay, sure.
So the problem with and I spoke to one of our managers, our general managers in that regard. The bid went out in almost, let's say, June last year.
Yeah, for the roads now.
For roads. And it couldn't be been done because the procurement took forever to get a tender awarded. And once a tender is then awarded, then some of the other contractors would then object to this tender, and the process had to go back all the way. So it's been a norm. It's been carrying on this way for almost 1 year. We couldn't get a contractor on board.
And council can't intervene there at all.
You can't interfere at all. Then just as a contractor was about to be awarded, the rain came. And then you had to revise the scope of work once again. So it's a challenging process. And what we did now, we appointed contractors. The CEO appointed contractors that started working on the roads. And I think that many of you can see that in, I think it was the Windhoek Observer, that people said that they're taking the municipality of Walvis Bay to ACC because of tender corruption. But this was because somebody was bold enough to take a decision to award tenders because Walvis Bay's roads were falling apart. If we had to take those objections on and not start working, we would have never gotten to where we are now.
Okay, so that's because they use the clause of direct procurement.
Yeah.
Right? So that we can just start getting the
Things
roads
done,
fixed.
Yeah.
And now there's another objection that it's a... So now this is just I mean, even in my situation where I'm now an MP and we are going into depth in the different committees, you start seeing a lot of things and how... So my question now is, do you think some of this was deliberate sabotage? Or do you think it's a combination of... I mean, why is the procurement process taken so slow? Why is there continuous objections? Why... do you think there's an element of that?
I think I'll allow the listeners to make their own determination on what they think is happening.
Yeah.
And what I can say, I think that there's a sense of entitlement also in the tender processing.
Yes.
Because certain people might feel that they are entitled to get certain tenders and whatever. But it doesn't work that way. Well, we need to get things done, and we need to get the best people on board to get things done. Walvis Bay, I think, if you look at the situation of our roads, what led to maybe direct procurement was it was an emergency situation. It was an emergency. We needed to get our roads fixed. Everybody was growing annoyed, was getting angry of how our road condition was looking, and something needed to be done.
Yeah, and now they even object to that.
Yeah.
So it is quite interesting because what I've also seen that, you know, when you take the administrative side of things, right? Like they always say politicians get elected every 5 years, right? But the administration side of things, there's some people that have been there for 20 years inside the system.
Yeah, you will even have people thinking that you guys are temporary, we are permanent.
Yeah.
And I would like to believe that as the CEO is appointed on a 5-year contract, that we should start looking at, I think this was a suggestion we also made to the then minister, that we get general managers appointed on the same system of a 5-year contract, being revised and renewed after you have proved yourself worthy of being in that position. And that is how you see CEOs staying or CEOs' contracts being ended.
Yeah.
Because they need to prove to council that it's worth keeping them in that position. Yeah. But then you also have a problem with continuation of councillors. You'll have this council sitting, and then after 5 years you have a new council coming in with different beliefs and different ways of wanting to do things. So the administration, as the administrative head, is very, very important to carry forth the work that's been done administratively. If you look at Swakopmund, for example, how Swakopmund has been doing, I don't even think Swakopmund councillors has the headaches that we have, because the administration is doing things as it should be done.
Yes.
In Walvis Bay now currently, I'm happy to say that we have a new CEO We have almost new general managers in every single position that is there. So we are hopeful for the future of Walvis Bay under the new leadership, administrative leadership, not only the political leadership, but under the new administrative leadership. I can see things going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think what people should also understand is, IPC came from the outside in, right? Yeah. We found systems in place that we're like, but this is not a law, this is not a rule, this is just a practice that has been happening for 20, 30 years. And to change that system, it's a painful process, and you get a lot of pushback. But as the system starts changing and we put new things into place, it has a snowball effect. Yeah. And we're seeing the same thing coming into Parliament. How many systems are in place that is not functioning, and that basically corrodes the whole process. So there's one thing that I also want to mention on the procurement system. I think we all know that the procurement system is failing us, and besides the bureaucratic process, it's also how the corruption happens and where corruption happens. And I think people must also realize that if the administration part of it, and that's what SWAP has been using the procurement system for many years to give benefits to certain people. We know that. We can see that in the medical, we can see that in the health, we can see that all over. So we know that, and I think people need to understand that those administration functions of the towns, of the country, of the government is being entrenched and solidified by a lot of SWAPO people that hold these positions in there. And they've been using the procurement system and these things we are fighting that system. And I'm glad you gave me a bit of an outline of where the powers of the council lie, to know that the council can't directly affect that. And it takes time. That's why we're also having this conversation to bring it out. Yeah. Okay, but I want to go back to the roads now, because I think the procurement system and that issue is not the only thing. There's a few other factors also in play. And I'm going to name them so that we can elaborate on them. Yeah. So the first one that I want to tackle is that people need to understand how infrastructure maintenance works. If you invest in maintaining something, the investment is for 20 years from now. So when we got independent, all the infrastructure was invested to be able or maintained to be able to be sustained for 30 years. But you need continuous maintenance and continuous investment in the infrastructure. So after 30 years now, a lot of infrastructure is falling. So how does that affect the roads as well? Maybe you can give you an idea.
Not only the roads, the sewage system as well. You got a town with, for example, 30,000 residents. Yeah. Infrastructure was designed in such a way. But then as a government, as council, you were supposed to see that the town is growing rapidly. So you needed to make provision to accommodate that growth. Walvis Bay as a port, it's one of the biggest ports in the southern region, and it's feeding all of the landlocked countries basically. So we have trucks frequenting Walvis Bay on a regular basis. So if you do not do the upkeep and the maintenance of infrastructure, at some point it will fall apart. If you take a house, for example, and you haven't maintained that house for 30 years, and the new tenant has to come in and he has to fix that house, how will he fix a house that has been destroyed within 30 years in a period of 5 years? The same goes for infrastructure. We have had lack of supervision in many aspects in Walvis Bay municipality. You have bylaws, you have laws, you have policies that are so outdated, they don't speak to current times. We recently had to amend the housing policy. We recently we are busy and we have amended the credit control policy just to give some relief and some assistance to residents of Walvis Bay, because these policies are seriously outdated. You have policies in HR that doesn't, in municipalities, that doesn't speak to the national policies anymore. They are so outdated, and that is the work of council. That is what council should be focusing on and doing, because your policy stand is your direct instruction to your administration to carry out the wishes of council through these policies. But to get back to your question, no proper maintenance on our road infrastructure has been done. The increase in trucks is there, the increase in residents. We are now at 130,000 people in Walvis Bay, and it's continuously growing. Walvis Bay is known as the oasis of opportunity. We have so many people coming here, and it also puts an added burden on infrastructure. But we are now currently busy. We have engaged the Roads Authority and Roads Fund to also assist the municipality, and they'll be fixing roads coming from the port from the circle of Walvis Bay all the way to the port, and that's an investment of about $400 million that we have received from them. So council needs to be proactive, we need to be on the ground, and we need to know what is going on.
No.
And I think that was lacking in the previous council of Walvis Bay. They allowed administration to run the town as they saw fit, and they had no direct or indirect say in what was going on, or they did not care about what was going on. That is how you found Walvis Bay roads being in the state it is now.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a very, very valid point. I mean, we have all these trucks from Zambia coming. We have all these trucks from all over the country, even Botswana, coming to use our port now. I mean, with the Durban port that was out of action for a long time, even South African trucks started using our ports. So if you don't over time anticipate the increase, then there's no way that we can upkeep the infrastructure if all these trucks drive on the road.
John-Louw, a basic thing I want to bring under your attention is you have a port city, a port town like Walvis Bay. Yet in 30 years, there was no provision made for any proper truck ports. We had to come in now, truck ports.
Yeah.
We had to come in now as a new council to give land to at least 3 entities to build truck ports. So that because we have a problem of trucks standing all over town in Walvis Bay.
Yeah.
So these are small things that it goes beyond my knowledge to think that this isn't something that was thought of.
Yeah. And now we are starting to think of this and we're starting to implement it. And I think people don't really understand that the magnitude of the problem. It's not just, oh, but you must just tar the top layer. It's not about that. There's an increase in trucks. You have all these procurement issues. The trucks are all over the place. Nothing has been proactively anticipated in 30 years for the increase that we are seeing now. And with all the hype around oil and Walvis Bay is the place where all these things are happening.
As a new council, John-Louw, it takes you some years to really fully understand what's going on. You come into council with this vigor and this hype that you are going to change things tomorrow. Things are going to change. Everything will fall in place. But then you find systems blocking your enthusiasm, basically. So you have to go back to the drawing board and you have to find ways on how you are going to influence decisions. And I think it takes you 1 to 2 years to fully understand, like you rightfully just said now, is that roads isn't just the top layer. So you need to also have some form of understanding on how road construction is being done. You need some form of understanding about how budgets are being pulled up. Some of our councillors, me myself, I come from retail. I have no engineering background. Leroy is a business person, Sarah is a teacher. So these are things that you need to start learning on how local authorities operate once you come into council. And I think that we now fully understand how things work. One of the motions put in by Councillor Sarah was to get a fully fledged portal repair team just to deal with the small repairs of roads. And even that execution of that recommendation or that resolution, that motion couldn't be fulfilled completely.
Yeah. Once again, it comes back to these systems, these bureaucratic systems that you have to fight and change. And I think another element to the roads that is also worth mentioning is the what call it, ecological effect, nature. What do you mean?
Nature.
What's the word?
I think they say climate change is nature's response to human error.
Yeah. Okay.
And Walvis Bay is lying under sea level. We are being compared to Swakopmund a lot. Swakopmund doesn't have the numbers of trucks passing through them as we have. Swakopmund is above sea level, Walvis Bay is below sea level. So when you build pump stations, when you fix roads, you have to consider the water table also that's very high. So these are all things that you need to consider. And how are we going to address the situations on fixing roads? Maybe we start looking at alternative ways of fixing roads. What is the best method?
Yeah.
Roads will always be a problem in a harbour town.
Yeah.
That will always be a problem. But we need to have a proactive approach on how we are going to deal with these things. We should actually have contractors ready every time just to get the roads fixed permanently. You should have a permanent team.
It should be a continuous process. And I think because we have to basically replace all the roads, it should be a continuous. And I think I want to continue with that fact that you said is below sea level. So if you drive just outside Walvis Bay towards the airport and stuff, you'll see these spans forming. Yeah. Right? So what I want people to understand is that the reason these spans are forming is because of the water. If you are below sea level and sea level is here, the water starts pushing up from the bottom and siphoning through the ground. And because of our lagoon and the fact that we are in Walvis Bay below sea level, all this water starts eroding the roads from beneath. So a road is not just the top layer. There's different layers. You can imagine it like a ditch being dug and then it being filled up in different layers.
Yeah.
So besides the trucks eroding the road from the top, from the bottom the water is pushing up. And because it's salt water, it also affects the bindings of the various layers inside the road.
Yeah.
So fixing the top layer is not the problem. You need to fix the whole road and do it from the beginning, or scratch it and start ahead. And that hasn't been done for 30 years.
Yeah.
And now the problem is, because the road is eroding, even if you fix the top layer, it's only a temporary solution.
It came to the point where we have to now basically redo most of our roads. And not just to put tar on it, you need to fix the whole structure of how
You
the
need to
road
dig
is.
it out and put the layers.
Yes,
And
definitely.
Yeah.
So that's a process that takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time.
and you don't get the funding for it because it wasn't anticipated or budgeted for.
Yeah. And obviously, as a local authority, roads are not your only concern.
Yeah.
You are not only dealing with roads, you are dealing with refuse, you are dealing with all other things and sewage as well. And if you look at the sewage systems as well, if you are fixing roads now currently, you need to consider the sewage system as well, because you will have leakage in sewage pipes that also breaks down the roads. So we can't just be fixing roads now. We have to remove or fix all of those pipes. Currently, the problem with the project with Road Fund and Road Administration and the municipality of Walvis Bay is that we've come to realize that we need to move some of these pipes out of the way, or we need to completely reline all of those pipes, or put in a whole new pipes, sewage pipes, because it won't help us to fix that road, and then you have a pipe burst, the road is gone, the pipe is gone, everything is messed up again. So there's a lot to take into account. But council is working on all of those issues. It doesn't take 2 or 3 days or 5 years. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. But we need to fix the wrongs of the past, and we need to start working on it immediately, or we have started working on that immediately.
Good. I think it's important for people to understand that this is a much more complex problem. And I want to touch on I want to conclude this part of the roads now and move to some of the successes we have had in Walvis Bay as IPC councillors. But I want to conclude it with one thing, and that is how propaganda works. And I think that people really need to understand this as well. That, all this propaganda against IPC on the roads specifically, SWAPO and the opposition, whoever is responsible for this propaganda, knows really well what the issues are, because they also have local authorities. They know what the limitations is to a local authority, but still they'll spin the narrative as if you, Trevino Forbes, mayor of Walvis Bay, is the one taking a pickaxe and making the holes in the road, right? So people need to understand that it is not their responsibility, and this is how they use propaganda to create a narrative that damages the reputation, even though they know fully well what the bigger issue is.
And it's a laughable situation when you think about how people do things. The people that understand things the best are the ones driving this narrative. They know exactly what's going on. Recently, we had a delegation of SWAPO coming to Walvis Bay and addressing situations, while they know very well how we came to the point where we are now, coming as if they are the messiahs and the rescuers of local authorities, while it was their party that was in control of this town for over 30 years. Exactly. Now they are being invited by individuals to come and save Walvis Bay. They will never be able to save Walvis Bay because they were part of the destruction of Walvis Bay.
Yeah.
The current people that are there are the ones dealing with the problems that we currently have. And we are facing them head on, and we are trying to fix these problems that we have. And give us five more years, you will see a completely new Walvis Bay.
Because the thing's already in motion.
It's growing pains. You have to get this challenge to create an opportunity to fix things. Yeah. But we ask the residents to be patient with us, and I think that they've exceeded their limit of being patient. But we have a good relationship with our residents, and they know, these ones that are not part of the propaganda, part of trying to undermine what council is trying to achieve. They understand and they know that we are going in the right direction.
And on that, I want to talk about one of the biggest successes that Walvis Bay had. After independence, Walvis Bay Harbour City town was one of the richest municipalities in the world. One of the richest, up there. And then gradually they started going down until they've reached a point where they were so deeply into debt, right? That the town was struggling. Because you said earlier, the funding you get is from the town itself. IPC managed to turn that debt around, am I correct?
We did. I think that I have to really appreciate also my partners in coalition, Uncle Barry and Councillor Richard, because without their support in working with us, we would have been only 4 councillors and we wouldn't have gotten done what we have achieved during this 4 years. And
So just to understand, you made Walvis Bay profitable again.
Walvis Bay is money, not a lot of money, but at least
out of debt into profit.
And I want you to understand that where has IPC been since the decline of Walvis Bay, from where it was to where we found it, and where it is slowly going to end up.
Yeah.
We are working for the betterment of this town, all of us.
Yeah.
And we are trying to really rescue Walvis Bay. Despite getting Walvis Bay to a place where it is also making a little bit more money, we have also given a lot of relief to our residents. I remember coming into council, we realized, our elderly people, they are owing a lot of money to the municipality of Walvis Bay, and this is money they won't be able to pay back to Walvis Bay. And we said we are looking at a debtors book of millions of dollars of money we will never recoup as a local authority. Let's write off the debt.
Sure, okay.
And we wrote off over $50 million. We were the first local authority to do so. We wrote off over $50 million of debt of elderly people in Walvis Bay.
Sure.
And we have now also amended the policy, the credit control policy, to if you want to come and pay, if you have a big debt and you want to put your water on, it used to be 50%, you needed to pay down. We brought it down to 25% to residents, just to assist. And some people are pushing this narrative because Walvis Bay is now becoming profitable, that IPC is the ones that appointed, for example, Red Force into local authority. Well, we didn't do so. The appointment is a procurement process. It goes through administration.
Yeah, it's not, once again.
Everybody wants to push. If you look at, for example, the bad things that's happening, the roads, and you look at the appointment of, for example, Red Force, they pin it on IPC. IPC is the one that did this, the IPC-led council. But when 200 houses are being built, they're not saying the IPC-led council, they are praising themselves.
Yeah.
When they see roads being fixed, potholes being done, it's not the IPC-led council that's doing it.
Yeah.
So all the bad things are attributed to the IPC-led council.
Yeah.
And we are 10 councillors, of which IPC is 4 in Walvis Bay.
Yes, exactly.
And they should ask themselves, what valuable contribution has my councillor or councillors done in Walvis Bay since we came into council in 2020?
Yeah.
Some of them can say, well, my councillor, one councillor has done more than some of them.
Yeah.
But you can brag about what your councillor has done.
Exactly.
If your councillor has done nothing, you have nothing to say.
Yeah.
Sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and it's, I get you. And it's easy to always just pin all the negative things on us. But I mean, we've had a lot of achievements. And the reason I touched on the debt thing is because Walvis Bay is also one of the only towns in Namibia that have consecutively passed their audit reports. Right? The term is unqualified, where you say it's the cleanest audit report that you can possibly be given by the Auditor General.
Yeah.
And consecutively, we've been able to have clean audit reports.
There are some things that really stand our way, and I think that our finance department and the CEO will be engaging the Aegis office to say that there are certain things that cannot come on our book. For example, we are shareholders within Irongo Red, 51% shareholders, but the assets and things of Irongo Red doesn't fall on our books. So if that one was, if we can sort out those things, we'll have even better reports coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think that's just something to note is that, you know, if we are bringing Walvis Bay from there, we are giving houses, and you are going to expand more on that. The land we've been giving, we've been doing all these things. We have clean audit reports. Why would we sabotage ourselves to not fix the roads? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
I think our people need to wake up and smell the coffee, because the propaganda is the one that those who failed is pushing to make IPC seem like failures, or the coalition in Walvis Bay seem like failures, which we are not. Yeah. We have come in and we have done our best, and we are continuing to grow Walvis Bay as a town. We do have challenges. We can't deny that. We are not doing the best, but we are doing the best that we can. There are certain things that falls outside our scope as councillors, yet we are still trying, and we are absorbing all of the punches that comes with that, and we can only do better.
Yeah, no, and I think that's also the thing. That people, it's not as if IPC says we are perfect, we're doing everything right. We are learning on the job, and we do make mistakes along the way, but we figure out how do we improve this. For instance, you've recently realized how important it is the role of the right CEO. And those are the things that we are starting to implement where we feel like, okay, we are doing things differently because we have to figure out the process because we're coming from the outside. I want you to touch on the land thing and how many houses and land you've provided. Talk a bit about Farm 37, right? And give me an idea about that.
Sure. If I have to go into land, I'll speak the whole day.
Yeah.
When we campaigned, I know a lot of people campaigned on the issue of housing and land, but that was the biggest outcry of people in Walvis Bay. Remember, we came in during COVID, and a lot of people lost their livelihoods due to COVID, and we came in with fish rot. We still have 600 fishermen also that haven't been taken care of as we are speaking. And Walvis Bay was basically the epicenter of everything going wrong. And we came in as a council. You had fish rot, you had COVID. We were the town that was locked down, that suffered the most during COVID, and we came in during the Toliloka fires. And we came to realize as a council that we should do something about the land issue. And the project of Farm 37 was something that was being talked about, spoken about, but really never executed. And we decided we are taking people to Farm 37. Regardless of what is there, we need to start with decongestion of Walvis Bay because we have so many shack fires taking place. And to come back to the shack fires, because the shack fires is one of the things that led to us really speeding up the allocation of land to Farm 37, is that you had the big Toliloka fire, and then there was a housing program that came with that. So people received houses that were part of that Toliloka fire. But the ones that were left behind, there were some shacks that didn't burn, and they were still there. And the concept in Walvis Bay was once your shack burns down, you get a house. Because government drove that narrative. Because it was campaign time, it was 2020 people were pushing and government were providing houses through the office of the Prime Minister, I think, the Disaster Relief Fund. And they gave those few houses to people of Toliloka. Now, you left these other ones behind. And there were people that received certificates from government to get houses as well, 50 certificates. I think it was also a campaign tool back then. And we came in and we said we need to address the land issue. That's where Farm 37 came about. So currently, as we're speaking, we gave land to the remaining people of to Toliloka. They were about 23 leftover fire victims. Their shacks also burned down. We had people that suffered severely during the COVID. They lost their livelihoods. They were stranded in the Narawal clubhouse. There was also about 20 or so. We gave them land as well. And then we had the 50 certificate holders, which we also gave land in Walvis Bay. And then we went further to say that shack dwellers, you have been doing a brilliant job. We gave shack dwellers land in Narawal, 6 blocks of land they have received in Narawal. Some of the houses are already built. They're currently building earthworks on the other remaining plots, the other 4 plots that they also received from council. Then we said you need more land because you are doing a brilliant job. We'll give you land in Farm 37 as well. So I think about 3,000 or so plots given to shack dwellers in Farm 37. Then we have an organization called the Backyard Tenants. They are doing a wonderful job. They are catering for those people staying in backyards. You know, when you stay in a backyard shack, you are actually paying rent. So you are paying somebody to stay there.
Okay.
So our thought process was, back in the day, there used to be a municipal housing scheme where people could afford land regardless of who you are. If you are a petrol attendant, if you are a housekeeper, a maid, whatever, you can get land and you pay it off at the municipality. So we brought that system back to life. And the people that are now owning houses, they don't go through land, for example. They don't go to the bank to get land, money to get a house. They pay the land off at the municipality. So all of these groups, also the backyard tenants, they're getting money from their members, and they are paying that land off at the municipality.
So not only did you provide land, you also gave them the means of acquiring land.
Yes.
Because that's sometimes, well, no, but the land is there, but people can't afford it.
Yeah.
But you gave them a way of affording it.
The ordinary man on the streets can become a landowner in Walvis Bay.
Wow,
that is something that we are very proud of. So the backyard tenants got their piece of land, and then there was a group of the caters for the fishermen, especially also those ones who lost their livelihoods due to the strikes that was there, due to fish rot and so. And we also catered for them and giving them land. But we know that land is not for free. Land needs to be paid. But make it easy for people to acquire land.
Yeah.
We are quite proud of. We have excelled as a local authority in that regard in giving land to our people, and we will continue to do so. But we need to cater for these backyard people, especially. Those are the ones we feel extremely sorry for, because they have the means to pay somebody $1,500 to $2,000 to put up a shack. And once you own your own piece of land, I took you to Farm 37 yesterday and I showed you the structures these people are building.
Yeah.
The land belongs to them. It is their land. They can build a proper structure. They can give their children a good way of living at least.
Yeah, and start a business. Even
Start a business even.
Yeah,
Use of the tuck shops.
And I think this what you've done here is something that should be modeled all across the country. And I think it's remarkable. I really, talking about yesterday, I mean, we went to a small business. This guy, they are using recycling materials to build furniture, to build braais, and to build things. And this project is an example of something that was funded by the Mail Fund, or perhaps you can explain exactly how do you get that funding and give it to people, especially young people, entrepreneurs, to start their own businesses, to be empowered. Maybe give me a bit of background regarding that.
Let me run you through. I was a few years ago, I was chosen to represent Southern Africa for the Mayors Forum. It's like it's called COMSA, the Covenant of Mayors of Sub-Saharan Africa. So there's over 390 mayors that are part of that organization, and I'm one of 3 mayors representing Southern Africa. So it's me, the mayor of one mayor of Zambia, and one mayor of Kilimani in Mozambique. So 3 of us in Southern Africa, and this gave me the platform to really go out. And I want to just go back to the whole situation of me going out of the country. You cannot be in Walvis Bay and expect to change the situation of young people in Walvis Bay. There are times that you need to travel, you need to go out of your country to acquire funding to change the lives of your people this side. And I want to address one issue. I went to Ethiopia, I think it was last year or this year, not quite sure, where it was published that the mayor took an illegal trip. The mayor is corrupt of S&T fraud. Had I been corrupt of anything, I would have been accused, I would have been locked up.
Yeah.
So these are also ways that people are trying to decampaign or to make me seem like I'm not doing anything in Walvis Bay, that I'm just there for myself. I didn't join politics for myself.
Yeah.
When I came into politics, I didn't even know that you are receiving a salary at the local authority. I quit my job when I learned that there was some incentive given to us in Walvis Bay. I quit my day job and I'm a full-time mayor in Walvis Bay to serve these people to the best of my ability, especially the vulnerable ones that need it the most, our young people and our elderly people. Those are the ones that need it the most. So as one of the initiatives of the Covenant of Mayors was me attending the COP, the one that was held in Dubai. And while I was there, I attended one of the talks that was hosted by Bloomberg Philanthropies. And they had a funding initiative that they were going to give, and I applied for that one. And Walvis Bay received $1 million of Namibian dollars of funding for youth climate action. And we rolled out that one successfully, and we received an additional $1.8 million. So in total, by me going out and seeing other places, engaging platforms, I received 2.8 million Namibian dollars for Youth Climate Fund. And the project you were referring to is one such a project that was funded by the Youth Climate Action Fund through Bloomberg and the municipality. And that's something that we are quite proud of as a local authority, as the office of the mayor. Yeah. So as much as people are referring to service delivery, there's another aspect to what I'm doing. Yeah. And that is a social element that I'm driving through my office.
So I want to put things into perspective. So that article that came out about last year, S&T fraud. So the discrepancy was on a 4,000 Namibian dollar amount that you paid back because they wrongly allocated it for the trip, right? And you paid it back.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was around that 4,000, and you brought back 2.7?
2.8 million.
2.8 million. So just to put things in perspective, there was an error on the allocation, which you paid back.
Yeah.
But they use these type of things to create a narrative as if you are. But the reason you are going in the first place is to get funding for Walvis Bay. So it's a net profit. You bring way more back than it costs for the travel.
Yeah. And these people, when you go to COMSA, for example, they pay your air ticket, they pay your accommodation.
So it's not even paid by the local authority?
No, you get a small S&T from the local authority because you are traveling.
But the majority
is covered by them. So you go to these places, you represent your local authority, you represent your town, you speak about challenges Walvis Bay faces, so you can put Walvis Bay on the map. And there's so much money in climate funding available all across the world, like the EU and other institutions that can fund the climate initiatives. And when you look at Walvis Bay is one of the towns or the cities in Namibia that's facing the effects of climate change the most. We have rising sea levels, we have irregular rainfalls. Now, who must advocate for Walvis Bay internationally, if not the mayor himself?
Yeah.
And why is everything being politicized?
Exactly.
So for $4,000, I was on the newspapers as seen as a S&T thief because of administrative error. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Mistakes can be made.
Exactly.
So that was an error that was made, and it was politicized by some people within the municipality to certain councillors.
And the fact that once you became aware of the mistake, you just rectified it.
Yeah.
By just paying back the 4,000 that was wrongly allocated to you. And I think that that's the thing that people need to understand. So they'll use this as is if you are, but in the matter of fact, it's been rectified. And additionally, you are doing so much for the town as a mayor to get funding for these climate change things. I just quickly want to touch again on the fires. When you spoke about the fires, another amazing thing that you guys have been doing is surrounding the fire stations and the new trucks. Maybe you can just give a quick run around that.
Okay, so when I came into local authority, my first gala dinner I recognized the bravery of the fire department.
Yeah.
So I gave them what was then called the medal shield to each one of the firefighters. Said, I appreciate you guys have been working. You were the team that we found that has been working the hardest because you had fires every single weekend. And what we did was we realized that, shoot, this fire department of Walvis Bay is working an 8 to 5 shift. Is that even possible? How do we really, how efficient are we?
8 to 5?
8 to 5.
Emergency service.
Emergency service, and they were on standby. We then went about and we said we are going to make a 24-hour shift for our fire brigade. That's operational currently, and we've employed more reservists in the fire department. We went far as getting a new fire truck as well, because the ones that we currently have, they are donations. They are over 40 years old,
Sure.
and the current one that we got now has the capacity of all the other trucks that we currently have. So efficiency in that regard, you cannot play with people's lives.
Yeah.
The people rely on that service, especially in Walvis Bay, with so many backyard shacks. And the material that our people use in Walvis Bay is not like the ones they can use in Reba, for example, those corrugated iron sheets that they build houses with. That one is fine. But the material we use here is old wood, plastic, cartons, because of we are in the rust belt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why it also burns so easily.
Yeah.
Okay, and you also mentioned that you moved some of the things closer to that. So.
Yeah, we then decided it will be executed this year, that we will have a satellite fire station in Tutaleni, which is the area that is most severely affected by shack fires especially. So we can be closer to the people, but also closer to areas such as Langstrand and Dolphin Park as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Yeah, so with the local authority and regional council elections coming up, you know, IPC is, we are still a very young party. And I think people tend to forget that we are a 5-year-old party competing against a 65-year-old party, or how old ever SWAPO is. They've been in government for 35 years. They've had access to a lot of funding. They have institutions. They have job opportunities they can give their people. It's a very big organization, and we are a small, nimble party, but we are growing, and we are taking on Goliath. And I think that the things that you've been doing inside council in Walvis Bay, and what we've been able to do in Swakop, what we've been able to do in Luderitz. I mean, the housing issue that we've solved in Oranje-Mund. Now that we are in Parliament, how we, with our shadow ministries, and how we are functioning and finding our feet, and also keeping government accountable, you can see that we are slowly challenging the system. But it takes a lot, and we are still young, and we are growing. And I think that people need to understand that we are challenging the system, we are changing it, and we are doing a lot. And sometimes we don't brag enough. I think we don't talk about our victories enough, and I think that should change.
Yeah.
We should start showing people what we are doing, what we've changed in terms of the budget, in terms of housing, all these things you have mentioned, so that people can understand why we are the alternative government, and why it is important for this election to continue voting for IPC. And to give us the opportunity to start growing and changing the system for the betterment of all Namibians. And then I also want to say that anyone can be part of IPC. And that's what makes us so unique, is that even if you think you're not part of politics, but you are frustrated with the way things are done, become part of IPC.
Yeah.
Help us, capacitate us to change these things.
Yeah.
So that we can say, and don't just take propaganda as is, get a deeper understanding of the magnitude of the things we are taking on.
IPC isn't your run-of-the-mill political party, and we do not do things the way it has been done for years. If you look at the politicians we are putting into these positions, local authority, as regional, it's not your typical politician. These are people that understand the problems. We have experienced the failure of the system, and we are coming in to make a change. We are there for ourselves. We're not there to corrupt the system to benefit our peers and our friends and our comrades and whatever. We are there to make tangible changes in the livelihoods of people, and those are the ones we want to touch. We want to touch the life of every single Namibian, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from. You should feel the change that IPC is bringing about. And obviously we cannot bring that change just by being in local authority, by being in regional council. We are now in parliament. But the ultimate change for the Namibian people, for the Namibian business people, for the ordinary man on the street, for the person that can't find medication in the village that he or she finds themselves, will be the day when IPC takes over government with a 2/3 majority. Then you will see how things turn around just like that.
Yeah. I want to thank you, Trevino. I think what we do is a very thankless job. All right? It's a thankless. We get critique all over. We get punished for the things that go wrong. And but honestly, you are also inspiration for me. And I want to thank you for what you've been doing in Walvis Bay. And the fruits are starting to be born.
Yeah.
You get what I mean, and I think that's it's amazing what we've achieved, and I know it's a struggle, but we support you, and we'll support you in this upcoming elections as well. We'll support the town of Walvis Bay, so that we can continue this process, that we can continue this grind to fight for the ordinary person. So yeah, thank you very much.
John-Louw,
thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you for sitting down and trying to get to the cracks of how things are being done and how the struggles are real, and also to iron out the challenges that we have, but also to speak about the successes that we have achieved. And I would also like to congratulate you guys for the work you are doing in Parliament, giving those guys a run for their money, and shadowing the heck out of them. Thank you so much.
Good, thanks man, I really appreciate it.